Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It's my pleasure to join you. And would you like me to say a couple of words?
Please, don't mind.
First of all, congratulations. It's great that the film is there, and congratulations that eventually it happened. To be honest, the last 35 years, when I left Word Trace, the our game behind me, and I forgot about it, had another life of mine. I was always thinking, will it be one day that I'll get the copyrights back and I will develop it further? Because for me, Word Trace was a great educational game. In fact, I had this great opportunities to speak shortly about this to Steve Jobs, that he liked the idea of having educational games on their initial Mac computer. In my case, it's a bit different, the same, but it's a different story. I was born in Soviet Union. I was educated and trained as theoretical physicist and mathematician. My base, of course, was Armenia, where I was born, and Yerevan State University, where I eventually created the Department of Mathematical Modeling of Complex Systems. This is back in 1985. Basically, in our modern words, it means artificial intelligence without computers, or very weak computers. But I was, unlike Alexei Pazhitnov and others, that I met my colleagues at the Academy of Sciences Computer Center, a lot of interesting people, including businessmen that later became the flagships of Russian industries, that were PhD, other students like Mr. Lem Blavatnik, who is now Sir Lem Blavatnik, Vekselberg, and others. They were mathematicians. And I was theoretical physicist interested in mathematical modeling, and my subject was astrophysics, modeling neutron stars and galaxies, and using computers instead of doing analytical work. This is where I come to computing. So that was my first fascinating life. I was a bit luckier because I was allowed to travel to Cambridge University, Cambridge in the UK, not in Massachusetts. I went to Cambridge, Massachusetts later. So in my first life, and I was basically for 2 years, 84, 85, the only Soviet scientist at Cambridge University. And I was lucky because after being refused for 7 times, I was allowed to travel because of the support of the dean or rector of Moscow State University, who was a great mathematician, and he was a very powerful person. So I was there. And to be honest, in 1985, and when I came back, I brought with me a treasure. And that treasure was the first personal computer in Armenia, and it was IBM PC XT with a sort of 20 kilobyte of a hard drive. But we were doing this modeling on mainframe computers, on very simple PCs made in East Germany. And I had 2 colleagues, and it was Sergei Utkin and Vyacheslav Tsoy, a Russian guy from Moscow, another guy who was Korean from Kazakhstan. And this was done as Word Trace was created as more or less the same time as Tetris, but as a game with a name. Our name was Lavengrum, Wordmaster. And we were just playing a game as a hobby. This was not our activity. But when Tetris became so, like a nuclear eruption, the success of the game was phenomenal. And of course, we all knew about the great success and about the great difficulties, and the authors were there, who were basically not driving the seat, and they had great difficulties. Then we decided, especially because after Cambridge University, I went to on a scientific visit to States, to Harvard and then Berkeley. And we were so upset that the initial authors were not looked after properly, but the state company took it over. So I registered a company in Delaware. You can imagine how much moral pressure I had, being Soviet citizen, registering in Delaware a company, and the name was Armenia. Basically, it's a combination of Armenia and America.
And Armen,
And
it was illegal to make a profit at that time, right?
well, it was not only illegal. Anybody knowing that you're making profit, you would have been making. You'll be having huge trouble. And I think, it was, it was the beginning of the end of Soviet Union, and everybody had a small revolutionary in his heart and his mind. So that was my colleague's small revolution against the Soviet regime. That I think, but it's difficult for you to understand because we lived on a different planet.
Right.
I mean, living without any freedom or your rights and everything, it's a completely different.
You mind if I ask Henk? So enters Henk into this, let's say, environment, right, that you were describing, and what was your impression of that first trip coming off the plane? I'm guessing it might have been a Pan Am, but
no, actually, because I was going to the Soviet Union, I decided to try Aeroflot. So I actually flew Aeroflot the first couple of times I went to the Soviet Union. I just wanted to get into the mindset of, Russia or the Soviet Union. When I landed, oh my gosh, everything was weird. There was not enough light in the airport. It was like the emergency lights were on. So it was like dark, and there were strange smells. So the air conditioning wasn't working properly. There was a stream of water coming from the men's room going across baggage claim, which I had to jump across. It was just, oh my God. I mean, all these things, that was my welcome to the Soviet Union. And then it was April. It was February 29, 1989. It was freezing cold. And I had some idea that I was going to be able to buy a warm jacket or a fur coat or something. That is the wrong time of year to buy a fur coat. You're supposed to buy them before the winter, not after the winter or during the winter. So there was nothing for sale. So I froze my ass off. Everybody was unfriendly. All my normal things that I do when I go to a new place, I try to be charming with the check-in people at the hotel or whatever. I couldn't get a smile out of anybody. It was just strange. It was like going to a prison or something like that. No color, no advertising, no nothing. Nobody was helpful. And anyway, I was very disoriented.
And then you meet your fellow scientists, or actually, you're not a fellow scientist per se, but now you are.
Not a fellow. Okay, so we are fellow game designers. Okay, right. And you use that word genius. You keep on saying genius. I forget who said it, but genius comes by the name genius the same way that a centipede comes by the name centipede, not because he has 100 legs, but because most people don't bother counting beyond 14. So this is not don't please call us geniuses. We're just game designers or game developers. Maybe we go through a little bit of extra effort. So what Alexei and I had in common was that we're both game designers. I'm the one who created the first role-playing game in Japan in 1984. And you think you had it tough with an IBM PC? I had to do this on an 8-bit computer with cassette tape. Okay, I made a role-playing game in 64K, including graphics, including everything that could be stored on cassette tape. It would take 20 minutes to load the game, at 300 baud. You could hear it. Anyway, and Alexei made Tetris at around the same time. So we crossed paths in 1989. This is after Game Boy came out, and I decided Game Boy was the perfect machine for Tetris. And apparently I was right about that. So I got on a plane with a tourist visa and started looking for ELORG, Elektronorg Technica, which was the Ministry of Software somehow, because the computer center wasn't allowed to talk to anybody outside the Soviet Union. And so when people started looking for Tetris, Alexei tracked down ELORG. And so when I showed up at ELORG, they called Alexei, and that's how we met.
Interesting. And Armen, you have a relationship with Alexei, first academic and otherwise. How did you hear about this story?
First of all, I would like to thank you coming to Russia, to Soviet Union, which was basically gray, as you described, and I agree with you. I think when I came first to Cambridge in 1984, I was not impressed by the colors of the shops and everything, but I was impressed by the color of freedom of expressing yourself. And it's important to understand. To be honest, we have met just very accidentally with Alexei Pajitnov, because as I told you, I was theoretical physicist. I was not a programmer. I was mathematician rather than, and for me, it was just a part of a project that I want to model automatic translation. Because what I realized that physics, where I was using very powerful mathematics of recursive functions, it could be applied, my mathematics, to ordinary things in our lives, like translation, it's a recursive function, like live modeling of a nuclear power plant, and so on and so forth. Big ambitions, very weak computers, and my IBM PCXT was the first personal computer in the whole Republic of Armenia, and the prime minister of the country then used to come to my house to see at it. And my partners in hobby, which was Sergei Vutkin, Alexei, and Vyacheslav Tsoy, they came to Armenia to work on my PC because they didn't have access to the same in Moscow. So these were two parallel processes going.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you opened the door to Tetris, I mean the great door, we were approached by Spectrum Holobyte guys. And from Spectrum Holobyte, Microsoft, and all of these people, because they were trying to look for new games, and they saw our game, which was Lavengro. And we had a big debate because we didn't want to give up the name. We have developed it with automatic translation, with music. We thought we are geniuses, as you were saying, but this was a hobby. But eventually we were convinced that we should use the word trees because of the great success. And again, thank you very much of creating the path for us. And after that, what happened is history, because we had visits to Moscow and to Armenia. They came from Spectrum Holobyte, a couple of colleagues. And eventually, when I was in States, I visited California. And eventually they signed with our company in Delaware, which was Armenica, and the rights were given to them, and they distributed it to many companies, including Nintendo. And I would like to show you some of my memorial things. That's the first Nintendo word trees.
Nice.
This is the first example that the word is experimental. They made for us to try, and my son was the one that was first playing the word trees on this one. And then after a while, we had the translations, like in Korean. Word trees was quite successful. That's the original word trees for Mac. And then they started selling word trees together with Tetris in Tetris Gold. That became one. So Tetris and word trees together. So it's a different story, but as fascinating as yours in my life. Then it finished, because Armenia became independent, and I became Armenia's first ambassador abroad in UK and then in many European countries. Then I was prime minister. Then I was a businessman, but not in computer games. I was in telecom and in energy business. Then I got fed up with business. Well, thanks God I was successful. I don't complain. I was very successful in the business. But then I went back again to politics. I became president of Armenia. And last year I resigned because I was, after 4.5 years, you find out that unfortunately politics is not as defined or as structured as some of the business, especially in IT sector. So I resigned last year after 4.5 years, and I'm now looking for my fifth life. Will it be the first one again? I mean, will I go into gaming or not? I'm not sure, but I really would love to look at the possibility of taking the opportunity of even as a hobby, to reinvest in computer games, especially the ones that are educational. There are always shooting games, great shooting games, but there's always time of smart games. And I think Tetris is a smart game, Wordtris is a smart game, and Rubik's Cube is a smart game. I mean, it's a game that teaches people skills.
Well, maybe, Henk, that segues to you on two fronts. One, where did you go after the Tetris? How did you take that learning in some of the wealth, and you've had your whatever second, third, fourth acts.
Yes.
And maybe you've got something that Armen might be excited about. You never know, and vice versa.
Yeah. So after I sold, I made my money with a company that makes games for mobile phones. I was a publisher in the U.S. And 3 years after I made this company, somebody went public and they bought my company for a lot of money. A month later, I found myself in the back of an ambulance with 100% blockage of the widowmaker. That's a heart attack. And after that, I found my missions in life. Mission number 1 is to end the use of carbon-based fuel. Number 2, which I'm doing terrible at, which is to end war. This comes from my high school days when we protested against the war in Vietnam. Number 3 is to make a backup of life by going to other planets. So I'm working on building a moon base. And number 4 is to find out how the universe ends and do something about it. This is something that's inside. Maybe you can help me figure this out. But on number 1, but number 1, I have a foundation in Hawaii. We basically put Hawaii on track to 100% renewable energy. And we did this by passing a mandate of 100% renewable energy for electricity by 2045. The utility, the electric company that said, no way, we can't do this. They were fighting us during this entire time. After we passed the mandate, they looked at it for the first time. And they actually said, you know what, we figured it out. We can do this and we can do it by 2040. I'm going, you idiots, you never looked at it before. You said, no, we can, without even actually looking at it. So what happened is after that, we changed the business model of the utility. So they make more money by switching to renewables. Guess who's our best friend now? That they're on track. Are you kidding me? They've already hit the goal of 40% by 2030 today. So I mean, they're way ahead of schedule. So and it's not costing them any money. They just put up RFPs for wind or solar or geothermal, and people come in and say, we'll sell you electricity for 8 cents or 12 cents or whatever it is. That's half the price of oil-based electricity. So they can make more profit and we can pay half the amount of money, and we, the ratepayers, can pay half. So we did run into a problem. We passed the solar law, solar rebate. So everybody started getting solar. We expected 30 megawatts of rooftop solar, but what happened was 300 megawatts of solar power. And the utility goes, whoa, we can't handle that much variable power on the grid. And so we're going to stop connecting new solar to the grid. And it's like, oh my gosh, what do we do now? So I took my ranch off grid. I have a ranch on the Big Island. I took my house in Honolulu off grid just to see what that's like. So we got into the battery business, started helping people. And now I have a company called Blue Planet Energy. And we are the number 1, the most expensive, best quality batteries in the country, because I don't want to have any batteries or any chemistry at my ranch or at my house that's either flammable or toxic or environmentally unfriendly. So we are this company and we're growing now. We have 25 people. We do about 10 million a year. If you want to know more, my email address is henk@tetris.com.
Kept the Tetris. And Armen, you're still exploring your frontiers. You have many dimensions. You're like the modern day Ben Franklin and beyond. Think of it. You were the ambassador for how many years in England? 20 or off and on?
I was ambassador appointed for 3 times in UK. I was ambassador in another 7 countries simultaneously to Vatican, European Union, NATO. I was in charge of Europe. There are some common things that we both have. The Wordtris and Tetris. I think what we have in common as well, that I was prime minister in 97 and I had to retire because I had health problems. I had cancer. So I had to fight cancer in 97 for a long period of time. Then after that, I decided to go into business. Well, I was chairing early 2000s. I created and chairing for World Economic Forum, the Global Energy Security Council. So energy and energy-related matters are something that of interest to me. And it's fascinating what you are doing, because I agree with you. That's one of the most important things that we have to do today. And today is my fifth life. I've finished, and my new book is coming out. It's called The Club of Small Smart States, how the small states can help to save the planet, because they are smarter in many ways, and their policies are smarter, and there are a lot of examples of very successful small states. And the second book that I'm writing now is called Quantum Politics. Basically, the argument is that the world has changed dramatically because of technology. And we don't realize that, and we don't recognize that. And we think that the pandemic has changed the world. In reality, because the world is changed, we have pandemics. Because the world has changed, we don't have international institutions basically creating the stability or security for many of us. That's why we have wars. I agree with you. That's something that we have to stop. In order to stop that, we have to fundamentally understand in what sort of a century we live. And I found the name, which is called quantum politics, quantum world, in the sense that the source of big changes is, of course, technological change that started 100 years ago with quantum physics. Of course, now that change, technological change, is basically changing everything, starting from energy consumption, health, but also the way we exercise politics. That's why I call it quantum. So that's the next book, but I'm still open, and I find fascinating this virtual meeting. It's also a quantum, because half of our life is real material, and half of our lives is already virtual. We are already virtual objects. Half of us is virtual. And I use this opportunity to invite both of you, not virtually, but materially, to come to London. And I'll be very happy to host you with a very nice Armenian dinner.
Sounds great.
And then we can speak about future.
As long as you have Armenia. And well, Henk, you're from a small state that's making change.
Well, okay, but before we go on past the Armagnac, I, in Moscow with Alexei Pajitnov, finished many bottles of Ararat.
So see, you remember it.
Russian cognac. I remember it very.
It's not Russian, it's Armenian cognac.
No, it's Armenian. Of course it's Armenian. Armenian. I knew that. I know
Armenian what to serve it to you. I know what to
yes, absolutely. And Alexei used to
call many
it.
funny stories about Armenian brandy as well. We'll be happy to share with you.
Yes, okay.
Looking
Sounds
forward
good.
to that.
I just wanted to wrap my story. So my new endeavor is to do what I did in Hawaii for the rest of the planet. We, from Hawaii, 22 other states and territories, US, have copied our legislation or have the same goal or a similar goal of 100% renewable energy. And we need to make this happen in the rest of the world. So last year we started a new effort, a new group called the Blue Planet Alliance, and we're based in New York. And I invite you to come and join us in New York sometime when you're here. We are working to do the same thing we did in Hawaii and the other states in the rest of the world. So we're starting with island countries because they're most similar to Hawaii. So last year we flipped Guam, Tonga, Tuvalu, and Palau. And this year we're looking to spread that around the world. But we don't want to stop at island countries. We have to stop. We won't stop until we have every country has a mandate. So maybe you can help me figure out how we can get Armenia to have a mandate of 100% renewable energy. It's just a decision.
Well, it's
just a decision. First, you make, in Hawaii, if you ask the experts, they'll tell you, no, we can't do this. I was on a panel And I said, we're going to go 100% by 2045. The guy next to me says, there is no way we can go 100% by 2045. I'm a professor at the university. This is what I study. And I said, well, I'm not as smart as that guy, so we're going to do it anyway. And that is what we have to do in the rest of the world. We have to do it anyway.
I know how to do it. I think that's the theme of the book, which is called the Small States Club, because you can do that in small states. And I would like to explore that where talking to you. And I've joined you already 3 years ago when I agreed with Emirates, the famous company called Masdar, which is a subsidiary of Mubadala, the state fund. And we have agreed to build in Armenia 2 times 250 megawatts solar. I mean, I believe in what you are saying, and I believe that we can just focus on. That's why when I'm in the book says how small states can save the world. I mean, by their example as well, because the small states can become 100% solar or 100% basically clean energy much faster than the big states. So showing the way forward. So there, probably we can come together and indeed share not only the Armenian brandy, but also some ideas how to push the global clean environment together. And I will take this opportunity to get more information from you, because I'm also making public speeches, and I have my own international conference that the next one will be every year called Summit of Minds, Atom Summit of Minds. Next one will be in Singapore, and one of the subjects is going to be the green subject. I mean, and I'll be very happy to invite you guys.
And Armen, when is it?
October.
What are the dates? October? Okay.
October 2023.
Well, I don't know if you can see the screen. Our next event in your hometown, London, is in June. And of course, we'll be in the West Coast. We're always in New York. We'll be all over the world, including Singapore in May. I pop down here. Yeah, May 15th to 17th. So we move around the world and hope to put you guys together, or at least virtually. And thank you. I'm excited. I think I saw Alexei was on here, Armen, for a moment. He was excited that you would join.
I'll give you my best regards, and that was in my mind all the time.
Hold on. Alexei's here with me in the room.
Oh, you're Alexei. Yeah. Oh, even better.
Yeah, here we go.
Hi.
Here we go.
Hi. Hi.
Hello.
Awesome.
Fantastic. So you live there?
Yes. Да, я живу в Сиэтле. Вы еще говорите по-русски, помните?
Можно.
Я не только говорю по-русски. Вот в 84-м, 85-м я преподавал в МГУ.
О, понятно. Здорово.
What he's saying is I live in Seattle.
I'm speaking about our common life in Soviet Union.
Yeah.
But he was asking, do I still speak Russian? Of course I do.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful.
Wonderful. I think we should come together.
Yeah.
I think the story of Armenian brandy. How
yes, absolutely.
Discover Tetris.
Yeah.
So Alexei taught me how to drink brandy. I never drank it before, and then this guy got me addicted.
Because vodka is vodka everywhere, but we used to have the best cognac in the world, the Armenian one. So
thank you very much. Can I basically use this? Because there was another guy very famous that really loved Armenian brandy. His name was
Mr. Churchill. Yeah,
he really loved Armenian brandy, and I have stories about that. So I'm looking forward. You guys coming to London? I saw it 22nd of June.
Well, that's not us. We have a lot of other travels, but I don't think London. I don't know.
Hank, we want to.
I invite you to come on 23rd of June. It's my birthday. We will have nice dinner together.
How old will you be?
Sorry?
How old will you be?
Mechanically, 70.
70. I turned
Virtually,
70
in my
this year
heart,
also.
17. I'm
I
still
will-
the same, very passionate about this world.
Yeah, I'm 70 this year also.
Oh,
Wow.
see?
There you go.
One more parallel.
I mean,
There's
my
53.
I mean, basically, it's very simple. You live a
and
full
I'm still young boy.
baby. How old are you, Alexei?
68.
Ah, yes, baby. Well, you made my day. I mean, this is wonderful. I really,
Okay. Very nice to meet you on
very
Zoom.
nice to meet you and see you soon.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. That's great. And Henk, you say it's not yours, but what we do is yours. We want to merge our worlds like this. So hopefully you join us. We celebrate Armen's birthday. There's another event around that time, Armen, isn't it? With all the ascot, or what is it that the everyone gathers in London for the, I forget what it's called. Around that same time. Yes.
Yeah, okay. If you come to my birthday, maybe I'll help you to get into the horse race.
So let's get one question
That's
from
a
the
very
group.
Politicians, a political answer.
It is,
Maybe. No
you-
commitment.
Eugene has a question. Quick question, Eugene. Go. Eugene, go.
Guys, it's an amazing to hear the story. Armen, I've been to Armenia over 20 times, and
Me too.
I love the country. My wife is Armenian, so I think that even today we invest in multiple companies with Armenian founders, and even today there's just great talent in Armenia that it is still there and creating amazing companies. So that are global. There's even a few unicorns now, which is great to hear. One of them is still in Armenia, Pixar. So
Yes,
it's great. And I hope that you do something in technology again. And our friend Alex Zorin has been telling me a lot about you.
Yes, well, I retired as president because I was president of a parliamentary republic, and for me, a person of an action, is difficult to be a president with a real executive power. But I think that as now I can do much more for Armenia, because Armenia is a small state but a global nation. There are 4 or 5 times more Armenians living abroad, starting from California, Silicon Valley up to Singapore. A couple of famous things in Singapore were created by Armenians 150 years ago, and I'll be very happy to show it to you. So starting from the famous Raffles hotels up to the national flowers of Singapore. But that's the president talks to you. In reality is that the future of a country like Armenia is in science, technology. Is the one thing that we have as a natural resource is human. We're not alone. There are several countries, many countries, that human resource, human talent is the main talent rather than oil or coal or metals. And I think we have to put a lot of effort to develop that. But as I said, it's a small state and a global nation. When you are a global nation, you have a global access to markets. The question is, can you utilize that or use it or not? And if you use that, you'll be very successful. So I'm thinking of devoting my future 40, 45 years. Are you with me, Hanks?
Yes.
Future 35 years? Future 35 years?
35 years.
I think with longevity technology,
I get it.
I think with longevity, it can be a lot longer.
Well, it's maybe my grandfather lived 105, so I have to beat his record.
Oh, wow.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I think that's Armenia has a bright future, but for the moment, big difficulties. We have to overcome them. Not the first time, and then I do believe that hard work and devotion and focus and talent will help.
Simon Vine, you brought us to Alexei Zorin, and which led us to Armen. Do you want to say a word or two, or you're on mute? Yeah, you're still on mute. We have a rule: if I say it 3 times, he uses all the drink. But
Okay, I will try to owe you everyone Armenian cognac, right? Which, by the way, I think is the tastiest of all cognacs. And I guess right now we have to say, all of us have to say how we love Armenia. But I actually do love Armenia, and I traveled to Armenia a few times, and recommend everybody as a tourist destination, because not only it's absolutely beautiful and it's very tasty, but it's also incredibly cheap and clean and safe. Love the place. So, Mr. President, welcome to our community. We really hope that we can be of some help to the Armenian people and find a way to build business. Some of my friends are already in the funds which invest in Armenia with EBRD. So if you, let's be practical, if you see ways in which we can help and people to whom we should talk to create funds, to create projects, please let us know. We're mostly into technologies, but in all sorts of technologies, and we're eager to do something for your country.
And Simon, you'll be in London. You'll be in London with us, right? You'll
Yes,
join.
most likely.
Great.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, well,
Yes.
I'll be very
And
happy.
we can go
You
to
have
Armenia
tell me
on the
how
way
many
back.
Okay, but tell me in London how many of you will be there, so I know. Will my house be enough to accommodate you, or I have to hire something else? Or the Wembley Football Stadium?
We'll try to get.
I have a very, very interesting question, strange one to answer about the film. Is Robert Maxwell there in the film?
Yes, he's in the film.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because you have to know that the Spectrum Holobite was owned by Robert Maxwell.
I know all about it. I know all about it because I was
And
involved
a very
with.
strange thing happened to me, because they were also looking for other games from us, and I was still and all of that, and I got an invitation to come to London to meet him. And until Soviet Union, you were getting your exit permission and all of that stuff. The news came that he died. The whole story of him behind these computer companies and everything was fast. I have never met him, but the whole story, of course, when I moved to UK, the stories of his businesses, the family and everything. But when there was a trailer, I saw a face that reminded me him. So I should ask you, was this about?
I also never met him. In the movie, I meet him and I negotiate whatever, but I never met him. But I could feel his presence in Moscow from when the Politburo came down and pushed Elorg and tried to change my deal, tried to nullify my deal. And when I was there, the same week that I was there, also Kevin Maxwell was there. I found that out partway through the week. So, Belikov, who was Elorg, was negotiating with me, with Stein, and with Kevin Maxwell all on the same day. We were in different rooms in the same place. So, yeah, they captured this in the movie.
Story. As I told you, you just opened the gates for us, because what happened next was much more simpler. Because they came to me, they came to Armenia, the Spectrum, the Microsoft guys, and there was a lady and a person, and it was much more smoother. Of course, then Soviet Union was on the verge of breaking down, and there was not much pressure, and you didn't have to go to Politburo or someone. We have done that already. And you opened the door for WordTris. And I
Well, there you
appreciate-
go.
There we
You're
go.
very welcome. I have to move on. All these days are taken up by interviews. I was on TV. That's why I'm all dressed up. And I have another TV thing this afternoon. So it's just crazy right now. My life is crazy.
Well, congratulations
Enjoy it.
to both
Yeah,
of you
I am.
for all
In
the.
20 years' time, you'll tell it to your grandchildren about this
Yeah,
excitement.
there you go. I have eight grandchildren, by the way.
Or then the great grandchildren. Then in 30
Okay, there you go. Now you're talking. Okay. Nice to meet you, and look
nice
forward
to
to
meet
meeting you in the real world at some point.
Thank you, Henk.
My best regards against to Alexei as well.
Okay, got it.
That
Take
was
care.
great.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you, Henk.
Bye.
Thank you. And thank you, Armen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you very
everybody, for a great extra briefing here. And we'll see you soon, hopefully, Armen. And I think I know one of the things we'll be doing. So, cheers.
Well, thank you for inviting. I really enjoyed this
Super.
30 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.